Hi, I'm Nick, and this is the first episode of GameJam Diaries, a video series where I will discuss the development of some games made during a game jam. I will discuss with the developers to understand their process, how the game evolved during the game jam, and to learn from that. So let's start and see with who we will discuss for this episode.
I'm Tim. My pronouns are he, him. I did mostly the programming on our Train Jam project, and right now I'm working as a developer in New York.
I'm Zed. My pronouns are they, them. I was mainly the artist and sound designer, but I also program some stuff. I currently work at an educational game company in Madison.
So I will discuss with them today to talk about Hug Them Real Good, which is a game they developed last year. And the main mechanic of the game is really interesting because you have to hug characters and find the right tightness to make them happy. And there is a bit of an exploration aspect where you have to explore a really cute world, like a little playground, and to find all the characters. Okay, so yes, so the theme last year in the Train Jam was Odyssey, and it would be interesting to know, like, basically, how did you start the project? What was your initial concept or thoughts on it?
The theme was Odyssey, but to be honest, we didn't think about it that much. So we're mostly trying to fit the theme to our aesthetic. The other thing is that I'm interested in alt controls, so I had brought a pressure sensor with me to the train jam, and I wanted to use it for our game. So that was kind of how we started brainstorming.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we were thinking of, like, we literally said to each other in the beginning, let's make something cute. Like, I think that's what we, like, word for word, that's what we said to each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think people won't necessarily notice, but we did use more of the theme in that all of the people that you're hugging are cyclopses. So in
Right.
the Odyssey, he has to fight the Cyclops, and our version of that was that you have to hug them to make friends with them.
That was very loose, though. We didn't really come up with that as like a plot point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because of the pressure sensor that Tim brought, we were already thinking of mechanics that might make sense with the squeezing motion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like hugging just kind of came naturally.
And on what did you work first, basically?
The first, I think, hour or two, we literally just doodled like the whole
Yeah.
time. So
Just to
yeah,
brainstorm.
yeah. Um, yeah, the Cyclop idea we just kind of, yeah, they the designs we came up with pretty quickly, like because we wanted like simple things to model, like we didn't want any complicated characters for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Tim worked on the rolling mechanic first because we were like, okay, the character needs to move.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's like the first prototype you see in the video,
Uh-huh.
that the character is just rolling around, and then the next mechanic that we focused on was the hugging.
Because the whole mechanic was hugging at different tightnesses, we had to make sure that we could actually do that. So once Zed finished one of the models, we were using blend shapes to show the different tightness of the hugs, and we had to test that first.
Right, so I rigged the character model, the arms, so that it has different joints at which we could control by script. um
Was there Did you work on like some features that you you had to cut, or maybe you thought maybe you wanted to include but didn't have time?
um no. I don't
I
think
think,
so, yeah.
yeah, our scope was pretty low. So the way we built it was there was nothing that like we figured out the core of it early, So then everything after that was like good, but we didn't have to have it. So there was nothing that we built and then we're like, oh, we can't have this, we have to cut it. It was all just like, okay, let's add this. Okay, then now that that's added, let's add this other thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
and to show like how low our scope was, like we actually had enough time to do polish and add tutorialization
mhm.
to the game,
Yeah.
like in the
I
beginning,
noticed. Yeah.
the third day we were like, we actually have time. We-
Yeah. Yeah, I think that also influenced our scope because we knew like the core mechanic already, and it didn't require like a lot of overhead.
Yeah, I think a lot of problem people run into during jams is that their core mechanic isn't figured out, but because of because we had such a simple idea, and also like I don't think we would have come up with it if Tim hadn't brought that controller.
How does it work exactly? Like it's a bending sensor? Like
Yeah, it's a bend sensor and a pressure sensor. So if you, the more you squeeze it, it will send like higher values
uh
than if you don't squeeze it.
Well, like you
But
put it in a sock, and
yeah, I wanted to make it look more like the characters or whatever, or like actually be something that you could kind of hug.
huh.
So I just like stuffed it in socks so you could actually like squeeze it instead of just like pressing on it.
So the train jam is a very special game jam because everything happened on a train that goes from Chicago to San Francisco during the day prior to the game developer conference.
and we didn't have internet on the train,
Yeah.
so we couldn't like freely look up resources. So everyone worked off like offline documents. They actually gave us a USB stick that had a lot of documentation, especially with Unity.
Yeah, I can imagine being quite challenging, especially working as a team. How did you organize?
Yeah, it was hard, but luckily our like roles were kind of easy to divide up. So like I could focus on the programming and Zed could focus on like the modeling and the sound. But we had to communicate with each other to be like, okay, I'm gonna send you this now and then you can work on this stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes like if you're working at your seats, sometimes people when they're like traversing between cars, they just kind of stop by and be like, "Whoa, that's cool," and then you like start talking to them.
Is it difficult to focus on the game?
Challenge and focus just came from having so many people around. The landscape was actually like, it was a nice break from the game jam.
Mhm.
So if you needed to like take a break or to like remember what you were doing, it was nice that you could just look outside the window.
Another thing that made it difficult, for me at least, was like I wasn't used to being exposed to so many different people. Because I'm an introvert, like I don't, I lose energy by interacting with people a lot.
Make sure you look out the window because the landscape changes very quickly and very dramatically. We went from like desert to super heavy snow, to like spring breezes, and it can be easy to miss if you're just staring at your computer screen the whole time.
Any advice, tips?
Scoping is hard, but once you start making a lot of games, you'll get used to it. Like a lot of game jams in the beginning, you'll definitely make over bloated
Yeah.
uh, games that don't work, and it's easy to be
Yeah.
disappointed, but it's fine.
If you can, try to design your game where there's like a core center that you know is like the main thing that you want to work, because then you can like increase your scope or decrease it really easily, so you don't actually have to scope, because it'll just come to you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, I wanted to thank you, both of you, for participating. This is really cool, and I think you share a lot of details, which is really cool.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
So thank you for watching. I hope you liked it, and I plan to make more of this type of video in the future. So if you don't want to miss any, just remember you can subscribe to this channel. Bye.